to like a middle school adoration time. So they had like the middle school boys come in for 15 minutes, and then the middle school girls come in for 15 minutes in the grotto. And he's like most of the kids probably had never experienced adoration, and there were probably 50 kids in each group at least, and they were really quiet, like
So
the
you
guys.
sang one of my favorites?
Oh no, wait. Oh gosh, which one are you thinking of?
Glory and praise to our God,
No,
who alone
nope,
is light. No?
no, definitely,
None of the 70s stuff?
nope.
Just the 90s. You're kind of stuck in the 90s.
That's not true.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, I play a ton of stuff from
2010.
2024, man.
Just kidding.
I mean, I mix it up. There are definitely some, like, I guess contemporary praise and worship songs that do not age well at all. Or like they're so verbose, like nobody would ever really be able to sing along with them or participate in it. But there are some from I would say the late 90s that are really timeless. Like one of my and it's almost hymn-like is how great the Father's love for us, or how deep the Father's love for us.
Hmm.
That's like that one has stood the test of time in my opinion.
Hmm.
But there aren't many from that time period.
Well, so has On Eagle's Wings.
Only because they keep playing it. That song.
I love talking about music with you. It's fun.
People have such. I feel bad dissing it because people have such emotional attachments to it.
do.
They played that at my grandma's funeral, like.
But it is.
They never go to church anymore, but they
Yeah,
still
right.
love that song.
That's
And
funny.
if you make fun of it, they really get hurt. But I feel like you can objectively make fun of it.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
I like to needle you about music. It's fun.
I have strong opinions
You
about
do.
certain
I
things.
know, that's what.
Not many things.
You don't
but
get
certain
sideways
things.
about a lot of things, but it's just like it's the one area where I can exploit,
Yeah.
and get you all defensive.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
But-
Yeah. Sometimes I can go really off the rails with certain things.
Yeah.
And it's funny because people will be like, "Geez, like, I thought you were a way more positive person," and it's like, it has nothing to do with positivity. It just has to do with not liking something that sucks.
In your opinion.
Yeah, totally. All of that
Yeah.
should be prefaced
Yes,
by
right.
my opinion.
Yeah, that's what's
Even though
funny.
there's objectivity to
Right.
it.
That's what's so funny about it. You're so Mr. Adaptability on so many things, but not when it comes to what is
No.
considered to be good music versus
No.
bad music in your book.
Just a real quick before we start, I played a wedding for many weddings for my relatives, and oftentimes they'd be like, just play whatever you want to play. So I would choose these songs, and but sometimes they would be like, we really want this song, and I'd be like, oh gosh, how do I just suck it up and play it, or do I just tell
Yes.
them how terrible it is? And I always suck it up and I just play it. But it's like no matter how I try to adapt it, it just doesn't. It's not.
But you won't admit that somewhere deep down in your heart, you're moved just a little
No.
bit by that song.
No.
It's just...
Some songs just aren't meant to be sung.
Oh my
Okay.
gosh.
All right. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure we all have those songs that people would look at us and be like, "That's terrible." Like, I'm a big Wham fan, and a lot of people will be
All right,
like,
we'll just end this discussion right there.
"Okay,
Yeah.
yeah." So what are we? What
are we talking
really
about today?
talking about?
Well, I wanted to talk about. There's this passage in Romans chapter 7 where Paul is talking about how he sort of experiences this kind of conflict within himself. And
Is that the whole I do what I don't want to do
yeah,
thing?
yeah,
Okay.
like I know in my mind what I should do, and then I don't do it,
Yeah.
or I know what I should avoid, and I do it
That's
anyway.
my line. That's my verse
Yeah.
right there, man.
Well, I think it's everybody's verse, and then in chapter 8, he goes on to talk about, the difference between living in the flesh and versus living in the spirit. And because it's Lent,
Mm-hmm.
I thought this would be a really good topic to unpack because it speaks to the problem of the divided heart, and I think that we all experience this. And I've reflected a lot in recent years on what that's all about, at least in me, like as I experience it. Um, anyway, I just thought it's a good thing to think about because I think
Yeah.
in Lent, we're trying to overcome the conflicts in our hearts because of the desires of the flesh or worldly desires, and to set our things or our minds, our desires on higher things. And we have certain practices in Lent that are meant to help us do that.
Yeah.
So anyhow,
Well,
I thought that would be a good topic for
no,
today.
I'm hoping to get a ton out of this because
Well, I actually thought of you because I know how much you struggle with this and how much help you need. So I
oh
thought maybe
gosh. Well, that's
we would
really
have a special episode
so
to
kind
help
of
you
you.
get through Lent.
I need it. I have an incredibly divided heart, and oftentimes,
I love you're so open about these things.
and well, this is the way I feel like for a period of my life, and even now, I struggle with how to deal with that. Like my go-to oftentimes is I just switch back into this white knuckling self-reliance, like if I just will myself to to change or to um like try to suppress or try to bury these things, these divisions in my heart, then I'm gonna succeed. Like, and it's just always an epic failure. And so, and then the flip side of that, I oftentimes resign myself to just be like hoping in the mercy and love of God alone, and just like, oh, I guess at my grave, I might
Yeah, you won't have these
sort
problems
of
anymore.
I might not have these
Your flesh will
problems
be rotting under the ground.
anymore. Yep, yep.
Well, Paul actually says something about that at the very end of that verse where he talks about, who will deliver me from all of this, and he's like, "Thanks be to God for Jesus Christ."
Mm,
I think it's a very human reality, and I think part of the human reality is just rooted in the fact that we're both spiritual and material beings. And while there's not meant to be a tension, because everything is supposed to be rightly ordered, the reality is things are not rightly ordered.
no.
And I think that I think we experience it in different ways. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how I experience this conflict, and then maybe you might share how you experience it, because I don't think we experience that divided heart in exactly the same way.
Yeah.
But we all have this struggle universally. For me, it's like I think I have a lot of desires that are like legitimate human desires.
Mm-hmm.
They're not, I'm not wanting or desiring things that are in and of themselves sinful,
Yes. Okay.
for the most part. I'm not saying I don't have sinful desires here and there, but for the most part, the struggle for me is not rooted in inordinate desires. Well, they are inordinate desires for otherwise good things.
Mm-hmm.
But the way I experience that is that oftentimes in life, I have this tendency to idealize things. And then when things don't work out the way I dream they're going to be, it's part of my melancholic personality. Or, life happens and, things go a different direction and don't pan out the way I hope they will. I just experienced this kind of disappointment. And it just seems like life is filled with, things that just fall short, or things that just don't, or maybe you actually attain the thing I desire, but then it's like it wasn't as satisfying as I thought it would be.
Yeah.
And so I'm on to the next thing that I sort of build up in my mind and you know, and sort of desire in this idealized way. So that's been kind of a lifelong struggle for me. It's kind of like, I call it my fantasy world, but I don't like using that word because sometimes that invokes like, oh, I sit around and fantasize about illicit sex or something. Like, no, it's just I daydream. Like I daydream about, oh, wouldn't it be nice if, and then I build up this desire and this kind of dreamscape of how life's going to go, and then I might pursue that in some way, and then it's just like wah, I can't attain it, or you attain it and it's not that great, or it comes out imperfect. I mean, here's a great example. It's like when we put in that patio on our back.
Yes.
I was like so excited. It was so perfect, and then I put product down to take care of the snow and ice the first winter, and it was supposed to be stuff that was safe on concrete, but the whole thing pitted. So I got this pitted out patio, and I'm like, so here's that's a perfect example.
Yeah.
So I was like, build it up in my mind. We're gonna get rid of this old terrible deck, and I'm gonna build this. We're gonna have this nice, beautiful patio, and it's gonna be so perfect. And now it's all pitted, and the spiritual side of me says, who cares? Like, so what? What's the big deal? But the worldly side of me is like all disappointed.
Yeah.
And it's like, why are you disappointed? Like, who cares? But I am disappointed. And because I have this perfect thing in my mind. And life is never perfect like that, in that way.
Yeah.
So I'm always disappointed. I think it's my melancholic personality, which melancholic people have a tendency to idealize and romanticize things. And then we're always disappointed because life never measures up to the way we imagine it.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's my that's one of my main struggles with having a divided heart. Why can't I just be indifferent or detached from those kind of outcomes, so that I'm just always at peace with however things play out?
Yeah. Wow. Oh gosh. I mean, I feel like that's even one of mine to a certain extent. But as you're talking and I'm thinking about this, I feel like my biggest struggle is I don't know how to say this. It's literally the struggle between, like, I think I can not idealize things, but idolize things. Like, um, and I use this word a lot in our podcast, so people are probably like, oh, here he goes again. But like indulgence, like because I make something an idol, um, because it's like this object of a deep desire, and so I will indulge in it, like to the point where it definitely crosses a line where it's like that's I'm not living in that balance of like moderation or thinking to myself, oh, if I eat too much of this, am I going to feel like crap? If I drink too much of this, am I going to feel like crap? Like I'm just so often in the moment. I'm swept up in the moment.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, woohoo,
You get really into the enjoyment. Like you really enjoy stuff. It's
I am
it's
whatever
funny.
that word would be, an enjoyer.
Yeah, whereas for me it's like I never enjoy anything because it's never good enough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so it is different, and I see it when we're together. It's like I'm in this like melancholic corner sucking my thumb, and you're like
all
jumping
in.
up and
I'm
down.
like 100% in. Yeah.
You're pile driving your best friend on the couch after winning a game.
That's a great memory.
Breaking my
So
back
fun.
again.
Not for you, but for
No, but, oh yeah, you just loved beating
that's
me.
one of those memories. Well, it's just the joy of that moment, the celebration of winning.
Yeah, but it's such a perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's true in everything.
Yeah.
Like, and so that just ends up manifesting itself in every physical, like, passion or desire that I
Yeah.
have. Like, it's
And just
just
for the sake of the listener, you're talking about like potato chips,
potato
a beer.
chips, a beer,
We're
a
not talking about
cocktail.
we're not talking about other grave matter things.
No, no,
We're talking about
no, no.
just well, I mean, I think it's like I think we're in one way we're kind of talking about the same thing. It's like there's these things that are legitimately good
Yeah.
to enjoy in life. They're
Yep.
not sinful in and of themselves, but for some reason we can just never have the right relationship with those things to enjoy them the way they're meant to be enjoyed, because we're not sufficiently spiritual in our approach to these things and our use of these things. And that's, obviously I think that's what Paul must have been talking about in himself. Like, I don't think he was talking about how it's like, oh, I just get so angry at people and I kill them. And I just can't stop myself from doing that. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, I don't
yeah.
think that's what he's talking
Right,
about. He's
right.
talking about the ordinary
Good things.
struggle
Yeah.
of the Christian person whose whose heart is set on Christ. We're trying to follow Jesus, but we just get tripped up all the time because, like we know, like for example, you know, to use an example you've talked about before with yourself, like that you don't need to eat the whole bag of chips, but you do it anyway,
Yeah.
And it's like I know, like for me, it's like we're going on vacation next week, and it's like I know I don't have to build up the vacation in my mind,
Yeah.
but I will.
Yeah.
It's going to be the vacation of all vacations.
Oh
And then I'll
my.
get there, and it'll take me 4 days to relax enough just to enjoy any of it.
Oh man.
It's like because I'm so uptight about it,
Yeah. Yeah.
I get so, and again, it's like we're very different people in that regard, but it's still
Yeah.
like, it's like, why do I do that?
Because what ends up happening in your case, it's the unmet expectations, which then cause this deep sense of disappointment and sadness, and so you probably get like really gloomy and glum and
Yeah.
this isn't working out at all like
Yeah,
I
I
thought
can't
it was.
enjoy it like for what it is.
Right, right. And for me, it's a sense of regret, afterwards, like, oh gosh, like, why do I do this? I'm not taking care, like, I don't think in moderate ways, like, and so afterwards there's just there's a lot of regret and physical discomfort at the time, whatever it is. Like, so okay, so we know this. So what?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess I mean, there's so many other examples too, just besides that I think we can point to. But I think that the fundamental problem is an inordinate attachment to the passing and kind of corruptible things of this life.
Mm.
And it's like, how do we learn to just use things for their intended purpose and nothing more than that?
Yeah.
And there is a need for this, but it's but I think this is, to sort of frame this in the context of the Lenten season. I think the reason why we pray more, we're called back to a more rigorous prayer regimen, to almsgiving, to giving instead of taking, to and to fasting and abstinence instead of, just helping yourself to whatever is delightful, isn't because these things are bad, but because we routinely don't know how to actually enjoy the things that God has created for us in the right way.
Yeah.
And so they become the things by which we sin. And as we, when we attach ourselves too much to legitimate goods, we make ourselves susceptible to actually, and vulnerable to really taking things too far and getting into, more serious sin, because the satisfaction that we chase is never satisfying in the end. And so it always requires more. It's a pattern of addiction. until suddenly you find yourself completely attached to a pattern of behavior or some substance of some kind or some sort of high that you're looking for
Yeah.
that now completely controls your life. And that's why Paul says in Romans 8, the works of the flesh lead to death. And it's not always like the end game. The end game is spiritual death, and but it means even along the way a kind of death of the ability to enjoy and experience life on the terms that God has set it up for us. And so we end up being miserable, and then we reach for the world in more aggressive ways to try to overcome the misery, and it just becomes an ever-deepening pit of, being trapped. So Lent is just a time, from the time Easter ends to the time Lent begins, it's just enough time to fall back into the old patterns and need a reset,
Mm-hmm. So,
especially coming out of the holidays.
yeah,
But
it's all the time for me. Doesn't matter whether it's a holiday. Um, it almost seems like some words coming to me are like how to discover, the virtue of temperance. Like for me, the desires of the flesh are like hyperactive. I think that's how I would describe it. It's like like, yeah, I want to indulge in like everything. And and I think ultimately it's
well,
rooted,
like everything, like what do you mean by that?
well, yeah, um just imagine every desire of the flesh.
Well, I can go in a lot of ways,
But I
a
mean in
lot of
healthy
places with
ways. I
that.
mean, yeah, I'll even even within my married life, like I don't want to get too graphic here, but like every desire is like in hyper drive. Like every sensual desire, like taste, like uh touch, like it's all just like um constantly,
Hearing.
yeah, here whatever it is, yeah, like, so the point is, I think ultimately deep down, and I've tried to mull this over, turn it over, figure out why it's so incredibly, why that division is in me, the divided heart. It's like, for some reason, I ultimately, I feel like if I don't, take part in that, you know, then it's not going to be there later. Like it's this sense of like, I got to do this now. Like I got to go in 100% on this thing.
It's probably, well, it sounds like there's like an impulse,
It's probably, oh yeah,
an
or a
impulse
fear,
issue
like a
there.
fear of
Yeah.
lack,
Yeah.
like
Fair
that
laugh. Huh.
it might not be there
Well,
later.
that's an
And then
interesting
the other
observation.
thing, well, and then the other thing that I would say is, ultimately, I'm not sure that I deep down trust that there's going to be a fulfillment that God is going to supply, that this thing isn't, like, isn't. Yeah, in other words, if the idea of abstaining, it sometimes is, I don't want to say terrifying because that's such a strong word, but it's like, it's an eye rolling thing for me, because it's like, well, why? Why do I have to abstain? Because I like that thing. And it's like, I haven't totally discovered how God fills that gap whenever I don't, whenever I don't, or when I give something up or abstain from something. Like, I think I don't ultimately trust. And I'm not sure why. I haven't gone that deep. You're looking at me like I can't wait to.
Well, maybe I should put my spiritual director hat on and see if I can help you. No, there's a couple things that are hitting me. One is that I think this is going to sound like a total sidebar, but it's not. One thing that Aquinas says about some people's like have far more sensitive appetites. Like they're more intense. And he actually says that people who have very heightened senses are also tend to be more intelligent, because all intelligence passes through, all knowledge, he says, passes through the senses. So people who are really sensual also tend to be able to be attentive to, you know, what's going on in the world, and insightful and perceptive, and those kinds of things. And I think that's true. I think he's right about that. So there's also then, kind of a cross or a burden that, one bears if one is really sensual in that way. It's like you think of an artist. One of the reasons why artists are good artists is because they're sensual people, and you're an artistic person. And I think in some ways I'm very sensitive too, but I would call myself more emotionally sensitive. Like I have very, very, very intense emotions, and I feel everything. I feel what everyone else is feeling, and I walk into a room, and all of that just gets sucked into my soul. And so that's why I think I experience either melancholy or anxiousness, because I feel overwhelmed all the time and overstimulated, and I don't know how to dial that back.
Yeah.
It's just like when I know that someone's feeling something intense, it's like it's just as intense for me, and then there's my feelings on top of that. It's like,
Wow.
yeah, it's hard. I honestly, I mean, it's very real. But so I think that as a sidebar, it's like, okay, like some people are just, they're not as sensitive. So they might not go at things as intensely, but they also maybe don't have that same creative side either. And, good for them. I mean, God makes all types.
Yeah.
So, I think that there's a certain degree to which people who are really sensual have to just acknowledge that and live with it. So the temperance issue, I think that the wisdom of abstinence or denial is not that we're called to withdraw from a bad thing, but we're called to regulate our appetite for a good thing, so that it doesn't have quite the hold on us. And I think the rationale behind that is that it actually gives us the capacity to enjoy that thing actually better or more fully, because we're not so kind of incensed or intoxicated by the desire for that thing. It's like that, and it can consume us. I mean, that kind of desire. So temperance is learning how to actually desire and enjoy a thing properly, according to actually what it deserves in terms of our enjoyment. So, yeah, I mean, a potato chip, I mean, I don't say this trivially, they're pretty darn good. I mean,
They
when I go to
are.
a party, it's like the first thing I look for
Yeah.
are the chips,
Yeah.
because they're very satisfying. But but when you eat beyond a proper satiation, then you feel disgusting. You get
Oh, yeah.
salty mouth, and you feel all gross and
Yep.
bloated, and you get all inflamed, and
Yeah.
so you're like, okay, well, was that worth it?
Right.
And I think in truth we'd say not really. But so again, Lent, I think, is the purpose of that practice of abstinence, and it's a regulatory activity that helps bring the appetites and desires for something into a proper alignment with the value they actually possess for our lives, so that we actually can actually enjoy them for what they are, and not excessively so. So that's important. But and that's one of the kind of concupiscible sins. But there's also like the pride of life. Like part of the reason that we give alms to the poor, or we practice the virtue of obedience, is because some people struggle more with being so self-willed, and everything has to be their way.
Mm.
You know.
Yeah. I
So
also struggle with that.
I don't know if that I compared to other people I know, I don't think that that's your
Yeah.
capital vice.
Yeah.
I know people that are very, very willful and very prideful people, and they cannot suffer something being other than it, the way that it has to be
Yeah, I
for
wouldn't say
them.
so
And
much.
I don't see
Yeah,
that in you.
it's more
You have
of
adaptability in your top
right.
strengths anyway, so
Yeah,
that
it's
would
more of a it's more of a strong ability to to distrust or critique, like authority
yeah. But
people
you
and
have an aesthetic standard, which is part of the sensuality, which I think is different than pride. That's what I would say.
whew, okay, well, I can cross that one off.
Yeah, I
Thanks.
just we don't have to own all 7 of the capital sins.
As you keep going down the list, I'm like, yep, yep,
Well, I mean,
yeah. No, I
we all
know, I
suffer
know.
from them to some
Right,
degree, but
right.
I think we all have one or two that are like the principal ones that
Yeah,
we
yeah,
lean
yeah,
into,
yeah,
and so. But at any rate, I think back to the question of this divided heart and the conflict that we feel within ourselves. When Paul says, who will deliver us, and thanks be to God for Jesus Christ. I mean, I think Jesus does. He does liberate us, in the sense that the more we the more we connect with Him, the more we are in relationship with Him. I think the more those desires lessen their hold on us. And that's what it means to put our minds on spiritual things, to be set on the
yeah,
higher things. I think that we experience more fulfillment and true satisfaction when our desires are aiming at higher things. And the reason for that is not because lower things are bad, but because higher things are disproportionately more satisfying because there's more goodness there.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I do.
Like when you experience the love of a friend, it's way more difficult to get tired of the company you spend and the person you love the most than a bag of potato chips. I mean, you're going to be over the bag of potato chips halfway through, and you might keep eating it just because of the salty addiction of it. But the satisfaction of it goes away pretty quick.
Yeah.
And that's just because of the nature of a potato chip is so small
Mm.
in proportion to the desires of our heart. Whereas friendship, true friendship, is almost infinitely more satisfying because it's infinitely more good.
Yeah.
And then you take that to God, and now you do have an eternally and infinite good. So obviously what happens is that the more we are attached to God, the more satisfied and fulfilled we are, and the less we find anything in this world even remotely satisfying. And I would say part of the struggle that I'm having right now at this stage of my life is that I'm just sort of like wah about everything the world offers. Like it's just none of it really does much for me anymore. I'm just like whatever. But I'm still in the habit of turning and reaching for that.
Mm.
Like I probably don't need to drink coffee every morning
Yeah.
because it really doesn't do much for me anymore.
Yeah.
But I still reach for the cup of coffee because I'm so in the habit
Yes.
of needing the little pickup it gives me. But, an hour later, I'm crashing. And,
Yeah.
I'd probably be better off if I just gave it up altogether because, honestly, it doesn't do much for me.
Yeah.
And that's where I think Paul is saying, it's like, why do we do this?
Yeah.
Because obviously, in all these years that he followed Jesus, he's writing about it because he's still
Yeah.
struggling with the same
Yeah.
the same problem.
So I mean, it's so complex. There's so many factors, and one of the words I wrote down was like, before you even said it, was we develop these habits for whatever reason. So for me, like the consumption, like an excess consumption of junk food is tied with events, like family parties or,
Oh, and you have a lot of them.
oh yeah, or weddings, the Steeler game, like I've developed these patterns of of behavior and habit where it's like, oh, the game is starting, grab the bag of chips, like I hardly even think about it really. So that's one thing is I think really being aware of the habits that have formed. Um, and again, like not a bad, it's not necessarily doesn't start as a bad thing, but then it's like, well, why am I doing that in the first place? And the temptation is to just like, yeah, over the course of a 3 hour game, you can consume a lot of chips and a lot of beer. I think the other thing, so habit is one of those things. The other frustration for me is, and this is probably what you were talking about just at the end there, like I want I want this transformation, this divided heart to be undivided really quickly. Like I want it I want it to happen now, tomorrow, because I don't want to be, like I have the awareness of where I'm falling short in a sense, and I don't want to be like that, but the pace is so slow.
Yeah, I understand. It takes a long time to change.
Yes.
And again, I think that's why we have Lent, but we also have daily practices that we are meant to, embrace throughout the year, like
I think
whether
I'm
it's
just impatient. I'm just impatient.
well, right, but the impatience itself is the restlessness around satisfaction. And when I struggle with this just as much as you do. It's not like but I do think that I've made progress over the course of my life, and I think that the challenge is to stay focused on higher things. A good example, like one of the things I'm doing for Lent this year, is I'm going to read the news and not watch videos about it. I'm not going to listen to commentaries. And I'm going to take that time instead to do the office of readings, like an audio while I usually do it during my workout. I would listen to the news but see, I was just noticing that it just put me in an anxiously bad mood.
Yeah.
So because it's all bad news and it's all worrisome and it's all stuff that, can make a guy like me fret. So I'm just not doing it because I can't be detached enough emotionally from what's going on in the world. So I got to stop putting my head into that. So I got the Divine Office app on my phone, and they actually read it, so I can read it and listen to it while I'm on the little exercise machine.
Yeah.
For my warm up. It's about 15-20 minutes. It's perfect, and it gets me back into the liturgy, the hours, but it starts my day focusing on the higher things, which is going to have a regulatory effect on my soul that, God willing, carries throughout the day so that, because seriously, sometimes I'll listen to stuff and I'll be so unsettled and so sideways that it takes well into my morning before I can get focused enough. Like, this is no joke. I can get focused enough to really be productive in my work. Like, I'll be like ruminating in my head about, some issue, some latest thing that's going on. And it doesn't do me any good. There's no point to it. It's just, it's a different kind of addiction, Get into the glut of all the editorial commentaries on what's going on right now in the country. And for a guy like me, not everybody likes that sort of thing, but I just eat it for lunch, And it's just terrible.
Yeah.
And I'm all unsettled and aggravated and
yeah, I've seen that.
I might be short with people, and it has nothing to do with them. It's just I'm just still like someone makes a comment that I think is just idiotic, and it just makes me so mad. Well, why? It's just dumb.
Yeah.
I know better. So I'm for years I've been telling myself, just read the news. Make the rounds, go through 4 or 5 different news sites, just look at the headlines. If you need to read about something, it'll take you 5 minutes and go on with your day. At least you know what's going on in the world, but you don't get sucked into, like for me, I get sucked into, all of the theater of it and the melodrama of all the news, the different news outlets that are, doing their commentaries,
You're the ideal audience, like, because I'm assuming that's exactly what they're
it's
what
it
they're
is
hoping
so
for.
addictive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like ear candy, And I mean, I also gave up Instagram. I do Instagram because I'm thoroughly entertained on Instagram. Like
There's so
the
many.
little stupid memes that people do,
Yeah.
and the comedian clips, and just the little skits that people do. I mean, I've got so many people that I follow that I just think are so funny. And with the seriousness of my personality and temperament, melancholic people also have a good sense of humor, I've been told, because we can laugh at the absurdity of life. Most comedians are actually kind of depressed people in real life, actually. It's true. And so I just need to laugh. It's like it's great, it's great medicine for my soul.
Yeah.
But the problem is the death scroll, like
Yeah.
I'm just going to watch a few, and the next thing you know, I'm on there. It's like 25 minutes, and I'm like, oh my gosh! It's like the bag of chips. It's like I feel horrible now. I've lost all momentum. I was making good progress, here on whatever I was working on.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I'm completely spun out in the ditch. So I'm like, I'm just giving up Instagram. No comedy this season because I gotta resist the death scroll.
Yeah.
It's like quicksand,
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. There's one meme that's really funny where they show what you were taught to be scared of when you were a child in the 80s.
Yeah.
And one of the things they always show is every quicksand episode in every TV
yeah,
show.
yeah.
Do you remember
Yeah.
this? And I was like, that was so true. Like I was always so afraid to go into the woods because I was going to end up in a big pile of quicksand.
Where does quicksand even exist?
I don't know, like in the jungle. And I mean, like, you can get stuck in quicksand, but it's pretty hard to end up in that kind of a situation, I suppose you ever get stuck in the mud when you were a kid,
Sure.
like with rubber boots on?
Yeah.
And the rubber boots are filling up, and then you're like trying to pull your feet out. Thankfully, it's not, 5 feet deep. It's kind of like that. But at any rate,
There's literally pits of this in places that are like people can just get.
Yeah, there's real quicksand, the real thing. You can die. So anyway, every TV show had the
Yeah, there was
so
always
anyway,
quicksand.
there's memes about it that are like really funny. But the point is it's a great metaphor.
Yeah.
The quicksand, I think it's a great. It was like almost a prophetic metaphor of social media. Social media is like quicksand.
Yeah.
And you're like, help,
Yeah.
get me out of here.
Yeah, like you said, we're so different. I don't really. That's not my struggle at all. And my my thing for this Lent is taking on less. So one of my things is always in the evening, just decompressing by watching something, on.
Yeah, you do a lot of TV shows and movies.
Yeah, in the evening, like I do. That's because I feel like I'm so on from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. With a million different things that like I need a time to just just not be on. And so my go-to is to just turn on the iPad and watch whatever series I'm watching or a movie. Oh my gosh. Okay, I won't get into what I watched the other night, but
it's funny though because that's another way that you and I are so different. See, I don't like watching TV shows at night because I get so emotionally embroiled in the
Oh,
story that I cannot fall asleep.
really?
Yes,
Oh,
I
wow.
have to read
Oh,
if I
that
really want to get sleepy.
totally the opposite.
Yeah.
As soon as I start reading, I fall asleep. I have to read the same
Well,
paragraph
that's exactly
20
right.
times in a
Well,
row.
right. That's what I'm saying. If I want to unwind and relax, at night, open up something and start reading, and I'm out.
Hmm.
But watching a TV, it gets my adrenaline all going. Even
Hmm.
maybe it's the shows I'm watching.
Yeah, don't watch the Saw series apparently, because that's a little bit too much.
I don't feel like I watch super
Oh,
intense
gosh.
shows either, but
No,
it's stimulating to
I have
me.
been trying to I know my limits. I give myself 3 days. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'm allowed to, decompress.
Is that
But
during Lent?
yeah,
Oh,
but the other
not
days,
every night.
no, because I can't. I
Yeah.
just can't. So the other nights I'm trying to read something,
Ooh, wow.
edifying and
Well, there you
spiritually
are,
good
putting
for
your
me.
minds on the higher things.
I am
Your
trying.
mind
I
on the
am,
higher
and
things.
it actually is really good. The book I'm reading has been really, really good. I'm highlighting all kinds of things, and it's funny because I'm why don't I do this more often? Like when Lent is over, I feel like I got all the good things going. Like I've got some semblance of temperance going on in my life, and then, you know, 11 months go by and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm right back to
See,
right
I
back to
think
square one.
this is a good point because I think Lent is supposed to be a time when we form new habits that we keep in the rest of the year.
Sometimes I do. Okay, if I'm being honest about myself, if I look back on if I look back at myself 15 years ago, in some ways I still struggle mightily with the same things. But there's a lot of my life that has kind of come into more conformity and but again, it just goes back to I don't look back too often, to kind of get that perspective because I'm so like in the moment that I'm like, why does this seem like it's taking forever? It's a very slow process for me.
Yeah, it's a progress by degrees. You make incremental progress, like something lessens. But this is why, too, though, I think it's important to get the psychology of all this right because we're not giving up things because they're bad and we're just attached to bad things. Really, the long struggle of a Christian is learning to be sufficiently detached from legitimately good things so that we can actually enjoy them for what they are. Because when we enjoy something more or we try to enjoy it more than it's worth, it ends up being a disappointment.
Mm.
Or you get into that that place of kind of I call it like you get into the glut, or into a place of like where you're sort of intoxicated with whatever
Yeah.
the thing is.
Yeah.
And there's always a hangover, right?
Yeah.
Afterwards.
Yeah.
And there's that pattern. And that doesn't happen when you actually learn how to enjoy things properly. So, the idea of giving up sweets is not so that you never eat sweets again, because
Right.
sweets are bad.
Right.
It's because you get to the point where you don't enjoy sweets in the right way or for what they are.
Yeah.
Because you're too attached to the enjoyment. And again, I think we sort of like represent two different ways that can go wrong.
Yeah.
One is just over, like you're just enjoying it almost too much, gets carried away. Whereas me, I'm always dealing with the problem of I never can enjoy anything because nothing ever lives up to the way I built it up in my mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's two different problems, but
Yeah.
dealing with the same issue of
Yeah.
worldly pleasures that, what makes the world worldly is our dysfunctional relationship
Yeah.
to things which were by design meant to be satisfying and fulfilling to us. we are created by God with a desire for those things, and He created those things to be satisfying to those desires.
Yeah.
So you can't knock that.
Right.
You can't turn your back on it in some sort of stoic way,
Yeah.
or I think
Yes.
Buddhism and some of these other religions like teach us that we should just be utterly vacated of all desire. And it's like, well, you're not going to live a human life if that's the case.
Right.
But the challenge is how do I enter into a right relationship with enjoyable things? And that's the law, Paul, the law of my mind. That's, we know when we decide to do it excessively.
Cross the line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Like we know, and we even know we're going to regret it.
Yeah.
And we do it anyway.
That's a great point, the psychology of all of that. Because I have a tendency to focus a lot on, like, how do I want to say this? Self-perfection, in a sense. Like, I want to be the best version of myself. And I feel like a lot of that ends up manifesting itself in, like I said earlier, like a white knuckling, like a self-will.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to will myself
Striving.
to be the best version of myself. And then what ends up happening is, you're right, like even though these things aren't in and of themselves bad, when I, fail at it repeatedly, then it's like, this sense of hopelessness, or like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be able to find that elevated center with the Lord in the experience of those things. Like, so I go into these crazy like defeatism, and which is all for me. I don't. It's all in the self. Like I need.
Yeah, it's very self-focused, and that's again, I think encouraging the audience to go and read Romans 6, or I'm sorry,
Romans 8. You said 8 earlier.
Romans 7 and Romans 8.
Okay.
Those two chapters, because Paul is trying to address this, and again, I think that there are very practical ways to address it. But I think trying to suppress a desire rather than integrate it properly is, suppression never works. It's like
terrible.
It's like trying to hold a beach ball under the water with your hand. Eventually it's going to slip out, and it's going to come flying out and kind of hit you in the face, or and that's what I have found is sometimes I approach a set of disciplines with too much rigidity, too much striving, too much self-reliance, and it's going to be the perfect little regiment, and I'm going to do it perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
And then I abandon it altogether because it's such a self-imposition in a way that's not really attentive to my true humanity. And it's like you have to have some enjoyment and some flexibility and some, latitude to live in life. It doesn't have to be this perfectly rigid regiment and plan.
Yeah.
But it does have to be attended to. And that's why it's interesting how Lent gives way to Easter, and Easter is a season of feasting. So the Lenten fast, in a way, is a lead up. It's kind of like how we approach a season of feasting. We're preparing ourselves, not again, so there's like, it's Easter, so we can we can totally.
We're done with this. Woohoo! Yeah.
It's like
that's probably how I do it.
Yeah, well, I mean, no, it's like now we enter into a season of feasting, and we should be calibrated to be able to actually enjoy it in a reasonable way.
That's true. For a while, yeah, for a while, for me anyway.
So you only get one malted milk ball, Easter egg.
Ew, malted milk ball.
I don't know what kind of candy do you guys do?
Oh, Reese's peanut butter cups, baby, all the way.
Yeah, you don't do little.
Could eat a whole bag of those.
Peeps, the little marshmallow
Ew,
peeps.
gross.
I know. I don't like those.
Maybe when I was 4.
Yeah.
No, listen.
Reese's peanut butter cups.
Yeah, peanut butter cups are my jam,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
I love those things. So, real quick, what I noticed about this weekend, and this is something I should spend some more time kind of considering, is even though that project that I described of spackling, and there was a creative process to it, like the whole creative idea of, like, matching the existing texture, and so that whenever the finish paint went on, you can't tell where the
Yeah,
work
you
was
have to
done.
have me over to see if I can,
Well, some
give it a
places,
little grade
yeah,
and see
some
if I can
places
get.
were more successful than others. But the whole point is that I ate breakfast both of those days. Very small breakfast. It was like 4 or 5 o'clock before I even had a desire to, like, eat. Because I was so in the zone about that process.
Hmm.
And there was, in the end, like, I can look at it and be, like, really proud of what I did, like, and be like, wow, like that, I did that really successfully. And there was a creativity involved in it. If I would have just spent the day sitting, on my couch watching a movie or something like that, I know for a fact that I would have gone to the cupboard and grabbed the bag, even if I wasn't, like, quote unquote hungry. So I feel like in my life, I have to experience some level of creative expression or creative activity to help curb that, those desires. Because when I'm in that zone, nothing else matters, in a sense. Like, important things
Well, that's
do.
because you're engrossed in a project that's occupying your mind. Whereas when you're sitting around, it's the problem of boredom. Your brain actually can trigger the hunger appetite when you're bored.
Mm.
So you just go and reach for something because you're restless, and so I'm just going to go. Whereas when you're working on something and you're productive, your mind is focused on that, and so
Well, but there is a difference. I've noticed this because I'm working on a project. It's a holdover from this architecture project in Denver where I agreed, very foolishly, to lead the submission process for the permits, for the building permits. And I do that in the evening, and it is a tedious monster. And there's nothing creative feeling about it. Like, and while I'm working on it, I will be, like, just snacking,
yeah,
because it's like, even though I'm kind of solving some problems here and there, the lack of true creativity in it,
yeah,
I might as well be sitting on the
yeah.
couch and
It's
doing nothing.
it's boring.
It's boring. I
Yeah,
hate it.
I know.
Hopefully, my client is not listening to this podcast.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are some things that are just mundane and laborious to do. And again, if you can stick your mind on the higher things, then
Yeah.
it's a little easier to conduct
And I feel like
those
when I'm
tasks.
creative, I'm creating order, and I feel like I'm way more in touch with, like, the divine
Yeah,
in the process of doing that.
because you probably are actually.
Yeah.
Because you're living more out of your spirit than your flesh.
I just need to, maybe I need to,
Yeah.
like, take up painting or something.
Right. But of course, the hard part is to overcome the inertia and actually start
Yeah.
and do it.
Yeah.
That's where I get stuck. I have lots of good intentions. I mean, again, this is what Paul's talking about. You have good intentions, and you just don't follow through on it. You just don't do it because there's another law at work,
Mm.
in your flesh,
Yeah.
in your members, as he says. But I
My
think that
members.
it's not just one member. It's like it's our eyes and our
Oh,
ears
yeah.
and our stomach, and
Yep. Yep.
it's all the parts of ourselves that crave and have desires.
Yeah.
But if we occupy our time doing higher order things, there's actually a lot of inspiration and satisfaction in that.
Yeah.
Way more than,
Right.
and that's what you're describing. That's what you can experience. So,
Yeah.
one remedy, like for overcoming all of this, is to just go do something productive. Don't go back to the cupboard and reach for the graham crackers or the chips or whatever.
Yeah.
You know.
The problem is in everyday life, there's just crap that has to be done.
Yeah.
Hours and hours of it.
Yeah.
Like, it'd be great to go home and just continue to be like creatively productive, but taxes, have to get done.
Yeah.
Or
Well, in that case, then
filling out
try to
FAFSA
pray
stuff.
yeah. In that case, you kind of have to pray and
Yeah.
just ask for God's grace to carry that cross, because that's what that is.
Yeah.
You might be able to make it a little better for yourself by focusing on God in those moments, but it's hard, I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard to stay in it, and the flesh is always kind of dragging us down to the lowest common denominator. And of course, the whole dopamine chase, just looking for what's the next, little hit that I can get that's going to soothe my soul. Whereas you do something that's more creative, there's a sustained peace, tranquility inside the soul. But you have to get to that place where you can settle into that, whatever that activity is.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
well, lots to think about.
So many things.
Yeah.
Lent.
Lent. What a good idea.
Can't say I'm always enthusiastic about it,
Every
but
year.
I know it's good for me.
I'm always
I know it's good for
I'm always
me.
grateful when it comes around, because I'm always ready to deal with stuff.
Yeah, I guess
And
I am
then
too.
I'm just grateful that we're all doing this together. It's like the whole church is like, well, I don't have an excuse now not to just
Yeah.
work on these things.
I got to tell you real quick, I'm, walking with this guy through the OCIA process, and he was telling me that he's talking to his non-denom friends, from his church, and how he was, taking up this sacrificial stuff for Lent, and the response from the guy was, Lent? He's like, I'm Christian, I don't do that. Can you believe that?
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Apparently he doesn't know church history. That's hilarious.
Anyway, I thought that was
There's
pretty
more
funny.
and more non-Catholic,
That is true.
Protestant,
Yeah.
even non-denominational groups that are doing kind of some kind of Lenten practice.
Yeah.
That's because a lot of their congregations have a lot of former Catholics in it.
Yeah, and they're
Like,
yeah.
we want Lent.
Oh, gosh,
Yeah.
that's so true.
It was funny. This is just a final thought, totally unrelated, but I'm just cracking up. It's kind of an indulgence issue, but we were having a discussion yesterday at the end of the On Fire retreat about fish fries, and that fish fries are not, they're not they're not everywhere. We didn't have fish fries growing up out in Seattle. And
Oh,
they're
really? Okay.
Just such a huge deal here.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, I was listening to the announcement yesterday, and Matt's, it's like, Good Sam is having a fish fry from like 11:30 all the way to 7:30.
Yes.
Like every Friday?
Every Friday. Yeah. Yeah.
It's just talk about like indulgence, like
Well, that's the thing. They're not even. You go there, and the portions are enormous.
yeah, and it's a big fundraiser thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like,
it's less about fasting, I think, than it is about
I know it's
making
like,
money for the church.
it's about making money for
Yeah.
the church. Yeah, when I was a kid, we had these meals. We all came once a week to the gym, and we didn't go every week, but it was every week in Lent. We go to the gym, and they'd make chicken noodle soup and serve bread, and we had to bring all of our dishes in a little like cooler bag.
Wow.
And we all set up at tables in the gym, and we'd have soup and bread for dinner. And let me tell you, I was hungry at the end of that. Like, that was not filling at all.
I bet they didn't make much money.
My mom loved it because she didn't have to make dinner that night,
Yeah.
Anyway. All right. Well, for those of you listening out there, hopefully this is helpful for your Lenten journey. Thank you for listening. If you like this episode, please share it with your friends. And if you want to make any comments and share any insights from your personal challenges, that would be helpful, I'm sure, to everybody. All right, well, we'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.
The Wise Guys Podcast is a production of Preambula Group, a Catholic ministry dedicated to helping you thrive in the heart of Jesus. Visit us on the web at preambula.org and follow us on social media.